The UFC is headed back to Des Moines, Iowa for the first time in a long time, and they're bringing a pretty good fight card with them. We have what could potentially be a title eliminator in the main event and a very interesting co-main event that may decide the future of the middleweight division. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to give you my bets for UFC Des Moines. Before we look forward, let's look backwards at the wild success that was UFC Kansas City. I had a phenomenal night with an incredible return on my investment. Jakey Boy made a couple of dollars, and BetSam did insane work with an 88% ROI. Overall, all three boys at We Want Picks did quite well for you. The safety parlay hit. BetSam's Slam of the Week hit. I believe he said that was 7 in a row. And we had a couple of wild prop bets, including Jocelyn Edwards by KO, which was plus $1,400. And when I say dollars, I mean plus $1,400 in the odds. Overall, it was a phenomenal night of bets, and we're hoping to repeat that success right here for UFC Des Moines. And if you do want to unlock all the UFC Des Moines bets, as well as bets we already have on the board for UFC 315, UFC Baki, and other events, every single bet that we place goes right on the website instantly at WeWantPicks.com. It is only $10 for an entire month to unlock all the bets, all the picks, and all the tools. And if you unlock it right now, you'll have access to every single pick, bet, and tool for UFC Des Moines, the UFC Fight Night with Gilbert Burns, UFC 315, which is next weekend, and then the UFC Fight Night with Aaron Blanchfield. Overall, a nice little run of fights we have coming up, and every single thing that we offer is in one light package of $10 for an entire month. It's not just copy-paste bets. You have tools. A lot of you like to do your own research, and for those of you who like to watch tape, you know how cumbersome it can be to go find the tape, do the searching, find the fight you're looking for, and then watch the actual fights. Well, we have a new tool called the Tape Index. You select the event you want to do research for. This is built out for the future. You select your fighter. You'll see their entire fight history, and any fight that has a little red play button, you click on it, the video pops up. You can watch that fight. We also have a tool called the Line Movement Tracker. This will give you the opening odds, the current odds, the win probability, and the line movement for every fighter on every fight card. And we have a tool called the Prop Hunter. As more and more sportsbooks add significant strike lines and takedown line prop bets, you can use this to guide you. You can see how many strikes people are getting hit with, how many strikes they're landing. You can see all their striking stats, their takedown stats, the average fight time in the UFC and outside of the UFC. All of that data right here, easy to see, easy to use, so you can very quickly jump in and out of those prop bets. All of this is in one package. It's $10. It's not $20, it's not $50, it's not $100. It is $10, not only for the bets where you just saw the success, but also for the tools. One package, $10. If you hate it, cancel. WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It's $10 for every single thing I mentioned and a bunch of other things that I won't mention because people start complaining the video gets long. Everything we do is available inside of the app, and the reason I highlight the app is push notifications. 5 minutes before filming this, I sent a push notification to everybody for a prop bet that I placed. Every single person got that notification on their phone, was able to see the bet, and if they liked it, they could jump on it before the odds get wonky. If they don't like it, they put their phone back down. Where this is most important is for early bets, for future events, like Jacob already has bets on the board right now for UFC Baki, and there's bets on the board for UFC Atlanta. The UFC Baki place, about a week ago, maybe, you got that push notification right then and there. Those odds have moved quite a bit. UFC 315 bets have been on the board for a while. All of those bets get a push notification to your phone. You can check it out. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine. But at least you didn't miss out on the line movement. The app is 100% free. Just search We Want Picks in the App Store. Let's talk about this actual card. If we're looking at favorites, there's a couple of obvious ones, and they are all juiced. I tried to give you a pretty reasonably priced favorite here right off the rip at Gaston Bolanos. I think he's just the much better striker. I think everybody knows that. His opponent has been knocked out as recently as his last fight. And Gaston Bolanos is a high-level striker who has competed in the striking arts and mixed martial arts. The issue would be if he had no takedown defense whatsoever, which it's not great, but it is there, and he can scramble his way back up. Gaston, I just believe, is the far better striker. I think the takedown defense is good enough, and I think the striking is just levels above. I think Gaston wins. I think he kind of makes it look easy. So Gaston, money line, I have a bet. You'll see that in the next slide, but for now, you can get him at minus 135. Pretty decent odds considering the rest of these guys are juiced. Mason Jones, minus 525. The reality is he's not spectacular. He's pretty good. He can strike, he can grapple, he'll move forward. He's a little hittable. And he is fighting Jeremy Stephens, which if you only look at his last 5 fights, absolute dog shit record. 1-3. Sorry, 1-4 in his last 5. He had 5 losses in a row, left the UFC, and then went 1-2. So the guy has 1 win in his last 8 fights. That is not good. But for the most part, that level of competition is pretty high. He was fighting at a high level for a very long time. He's moved over to bare knuckle boxing where he has had success. I imagine Jeremy Stephens is going to have a little bit of success, and then Mason Jones is going to wrestle. And once Mason Jones wrestles, it's going to be a whole different game. Mason Jones, minus 525. Those are pretty explosive odds for a gentleman who was also cut by the UFC. And before you comment, he chose to leave because he didn't get the fuck. The guy was cut. Then we have Azmat. And if the UFC wanted him, they would have just paid him more. They didn't want him. So they offered him dog shit. So he left. And I know you can say he bet on himself. And he did bet on himself. And now he is back. I would love to know the numbers, by the way. And the only reason I'm getting a little worked up is I got that comment 10 times. I was like, Mason Jones was cut by the UFC. No, he wasn't. He bet on himself. Okay. The UFC, in your theory, offered him a contract. He didn't like the money. He left for 3 fights. Now he's back. How much more money is he getting now? Was the risk of losing outside of the UFC and fighting for probably 1,000 and 1,000 and half to 50% ticket sales or something, was that worth it? I don't know. That's a genuine question. I'm not trying to prove a point. I'm curious. What was he offered in his last contract with the UFC versus what did they pay him for this fight? Maybe it was worth it. Maybe they offered him 10-10 and now here he is 30-30. Or they offered him 10-10, he got a taste of the regional scene and was like, yeah, okay, and now here he is for 12-12. I have no idea. I would be curious if any of you know that. Then we have Azamat Bakoyev. This guy showed up in the UFC on short notice and beat the absolute piss out of Zach Reese. Made it look easy. Demolished that dude. Destroyed him. And now here he is. He is fighting a Division I wrestler. He's still a pretty good favorite at minus 410. I do think he gets it done. I think the wrestling on his side will be better. And if it's not better, technically speaking, it'll be more aggressive. He also has the better submissions, and he's just dangerous. His hands have power. He'll work on top. He doesn't take time off. He just comes forward and makes stuff happen. And then Corey Sandhagen in the main event. Listen, there's an age difference. There's a size difference. There's a speed difference. Corey should absolutely dominate this fight. Minus 600 seems crazy. He was only minus 4 something the other day, so the line has moved pretty quickly. I think people are looking at this card, and they're like, well, Mason Jones is minus 525, pretty unproven. Azamat Bakoyev, minus 410, also pretty unproven. At least Sandhagen's proven, so I think that's why the money's going to him and why the line is exploding. But he should win. Deiveson Figueiredo's old. Deiveson Figueiredo, while he is still viable and he's somewhat durable, he's also a little undersized, and the recent success he's been having at 135 has relied on his wrestling. He's not going to be taking down Corey Sandhagen. So Corey Sandhagen, minus 600, seems expensive, but once you translate that to actual win probability, it makes some sense. If we're looking at underdogs, it's a weird card. There's a lot of people that I'll look at and be like, yeah, it's a good dog. It's a good dog. Cameron Smotherman's one of them. I think Cameron Smotherman wins. I'm picking him to win outright. I think he gets it done. Siri Saidi, his opponent, is tall. That is his asset. Oh, what's Siri good at? He's good at being tall. That's it. He's just good at being tall. And if he can be tall, and if you let him be tall, use the reach. If you get him on the ground and you let him try to wrangle you up in some jiu-jitsu, then yeah, he could have some success. But if you get in his face, you throw some power, you don't stay on the end, you don't camp out if you're on the ground, then you can go ahead and beat him because being tall is not a skill. And I think Cameron Smotherman gets in his face. I think Cameron Smotherman can win this fight. Daniel Marcos, plus 171. Listen, here's the reality of this situation. I know everybody absolutely loves what Montel Jackson has been doing. And you know what? He's got high-level wrestling and incredible power in his hands. So it's valid. It's earned respect. But here's my theory. I think Montel Jackson has had too much success with his hands. He's knocked out too many people, most recently Damon Blackshear. And I think he's going to come in here and he's going to bomb away early. He's going to throw early. He's going to throw heavy. He's going to try to get Daniel Marcos out of there, and he's not going to. And then Daniel Marcos is going to take over, be the cleaner, the better striker, more volume, more accurate, more technical. And I think Daniel Marcos is going to win this fight. Might be 29-28. Might be a little cleaner than that. Or in theory, Daniel Marcos gets knocked out cold because Montel Jackson has that big power. If Montel Jackson actually comes in here and mixes up the wrestling and the striking, then it's a very different fight, but I don't think he will. We have seen this time and time again where wrestlers have success with their hands and then abandon the wrestling. He's been winning. He doesn't have a recent loss to tell him to correct his behavior. So I am on the Daniel Marcos side. I have a bet. I'll show you what that bet is. It's not quite a money line because I do recognize that it is possible that Montel Jackson has early success, dominates that first round, and then, a little bit of success later, and it's a weird decision. Then we have Renier de Rider. Big underdog. He is fighting Bo Nickel. This is quite literally the most affordable Bo Nickel has ever been. What I do not like is the narrative coming out of a lot of people being like, this is the last time we're going to get him cheap. This is the last time we're going to get him cheap. Bo Nickel, minus 300, cheapest we're ever going to get him. Yeah, that's for a reason. He's cheap because he's fighting a good fighter. Everybody else he fought is not quite at this level. Cody Brundage is the best fighter he fought. And Cody Brundage is actually very dangerous, good wrestler, but Cody Brundage has a couple of minutes in him. Outside of that, Bo Nickel's been destroying bums. He just outstruck Paul Craig. And that says more about how bad Paul Craig's striking is than how good Bo Nickel's is. So yes, Bo Nickel is affordable in this fight, and I do think Bo Nickel wins, but he's affordable for a reason. He's fighting a giant who is a 2-division champion, both 185 and 205 in ONE FC. He only has 2 losses on his record, but it's to one single person. And it's not insane that Renier de Rider gets a takedown. And if he gets a takedown, then what? What's Bo going to do off his back? I'm picking Bo Nickel to win. I'm just going to sit this one out. There's a lot of questions here. And there is a lot of hype, a lot of love coming in on Bo Nickel. His line was even tighter than it is right now, minus 300 right now. His line the other day was minus 180. So more money's coming in on him. I will say, let's just see what happens here. You don't need to bet every time. You don't need to. Renier's not a bum. Then we have Yana Santos. I think Yana Santos wins as well. I've picked a lot of dogs on this card. I think Yana Santos wins as well. Right now, she's at plus 114. She's fighting Miesha Tate. Miesha Tate's the more accomplished, not even close. Former bantamweight world champion. Miesha Tate has quite literally fought the best female fighters that have ever walked the face of the earth. She fought Amanda Nunes, the GOAT. She fought Ronda Rousey, the GOAT before the new GOAT. She's fought everybody. Holly Holm, former world champion. Miesha Tate's resume is insane. Problem is she's old. She's inactive. And she is too old in the skills. Miesha Tate's hands never really evolved. She just stayed a pretty good wrestler with decent jiu-jitsu. And she was that before, and she's that now. But before, as a female pioneer, you could just have pretty good skills and have quite a bit of success. But as the sport continues to evolve, that doesn't quite work as well. She is coming off a win about a year ago over Julia Avila. Julia Avila is not very great either. I think Yana Santos is the more one-dimensional of the two, right? Miesha Tate's the more well-rounded on paper, but Yana Santos' striking is going to be light years better. Light years better than Miesha Tate's. It's not even close. So assuming, fingers crossed, assuming Yana Santos defends the takedowns, she runs away with this. I do think Yana Santos wins this fight, and I'll show you what we've got going on there. Let's take a look at the actual bets. We've got a couple of bets on the board. I was going to do a Yana Santos plus 3.5, but they're onto it. They're onto it. It was like minus 300. So minus 360. It was something absurd. They're onto it. They figured it out. And it's fine because I'll show you a bet in a little bit from, I believe, Bet Sam. I don't know if it's Jacob's bet. I think it's Bet Sam's bet. But we'll talk about my bets. We got Azamat Bakoyev and Corey Sandhagen minus 184. I debated if I was going to make that the safety parlay. I had the safety parlay placed at the same time I had the Azamat Bakoyev and Corey Sandhagen bet placed. The only reason I went with the safety parlay, which is, you can get it on the website at WeWantPicks.com, over this parlay is Ryan Loder is a Division I wrestling champion. He's a Division I accomplished guy, has had success at the highest level in American wrestling. If he shoots first, which he doesn't tend to do, which is why I bet against him, but if he shoots first, it could get weird. That is the only reason that I went with the actual safety parlay instead of this, but I'm giving you this whole runaround narrative to tell you I'm pretty confident in that parlay. Odds aren't spectacular, but that's the era we're in right now in the UFC. You're not going to get an insane amount of value on some of these fighters, but we chip away and we make our dollars one at a time. Gaston Bolanos. I have that money line on him. I mentioned before. I talked you through it. I think he's the better, faster, cleaner, more powerful striker. His opponent can be a bit chinny. And while Gaston has a couple of grappling holes on the ground, they're not insane. He's not useless. He can defend some takedowns, create some scrambles. I think he gets his hands going. I think he finds a rhythm, and I think he wins this fight. So I bet on him straight money line outright. He's one of the most affordable people on this card if you do believe he wins. Then I did a very uncharacteristic thing for me. I went ahead and I found a wild prop bet. That's not me. I don't do that. BetSam does that. Jacob does that. Last week, BetSam gave you a plus 1,400 prop bet. It hit. He also gave you a plus 450. That hit. I have a plus 400 here. Not my normal speed, not my normal style. I was looking at it. I picked Daniel Rodriguez to win this fight. I said it was going to be a good old-fashioned slug fight. Just some back-and-forth bullshit. Nobody's going to look good. They're both going to look bad. Like, it's just going to be sloppy back and forth. I could see Daniel Rodriguez losing the first round, starting to take over exactly what he did in his last fight, which was a slug fight against Alex Morono. And so I looked at it. Didn't love the odds anywhere. Didn't really want to do plus 3.5. Because those odds weren't great. Didn't want to do minus because I don't trust Daniel that much. Didn't want to do inside. And I said, you know what? I bet this does go to a split decision. So I bet on the fight goes to a split decision plus 400. All it takes for a split decision is one judge to think a little differently. And some of these judges are idiots. And we're in a weird state that doesn't have fights all the time. And it's not crazy that if this goes to a decision, we get a weird one. UFC Kansas City was actually pretty stable. It was the referees that kept fucking up. The judges did not. We'll see what happens in Des Moines, Iowa. If we get a split decision, that's going to be a nice little prop bet for Angie Boy. Then I have two different plus 3.5s. I have one on Daniel Marcos, one on Cameron Smotherman. If you don't know what plus 3.5 is, you're basically buying points on the judges' scorecards. Every single judge has to score every single round 10 or fewer. Then you total up each individual judge's scorecard and you add 3.5 points. The way it works at a summary level is if this fighter wins one single round on the scorecards, you'll get paid. So if Daniel Marcos wins outright, I'll get paid. If Daniel Marcos loses a split decision, in all likelihood, I get paid, depending on what that swing was. If Daniel Marcos loses the 29-28, I'll get paid. The only way I lose this is if Daniel Marcos gets finished or just completely shut down 30-27. And I don't think that'll be the case. Same exact logic with Cameron Smotherman. And then, of course, I have the safety parlay. Right now, I only have 3.6 units out the door. Once they drop the striking takedown and the takedown lines, which usually happens after the weigh-ins, there might be a little more coming from me. For now, I'm going to leave it nice and tight. Here's a chart walking you through the math. I mentioned plus 3.5. Here's plus 5.5. Exact same logic. They use this for 5-round fights. The reason I have this chart here is when we were doing our Tuesday live stream, there was just some absolute weirdo goblin in the live chat. You know the type. Anonymous, random username, no profile picture, insists they know everything. And this weirdo, goblin, dork, basement dweller was insisting that I was wrong. He was insisting that plus 5.5, they have to win 2 rounds. As long as they win 2 rounds. That's not the case, is it? And here's the math. For plus 5.5, and the reason that this conversation was sparked is somebody said Divas and Figueiredo plus 5.5 is a great bet. And I said, he's going to have to win a little bit for that to happen. So then he said he has to win 2 rounds. You're an idiot. And I said, no, he doesn't have to win 2 rounds. Not across the board. And here's the math for you. If the fighter, let's use the fighter on the right-hand column. Let's say it's on the left-hand column is Corey Sandhagen. Right-hand column is Divas and Figueiredo. If Divas and Figueiredo wins rounds 1 and 2 on the first judge's scorecard, wins round 1 and 2 on the second judge's scorecard, but only wins round 1 on the third judge's, loses round 2 on the third judge's scorecard, this plus 5.5 still hits. You see how that works? So plus 5.5 is actually better than plus 3.5 because you only have to win 2 rounds on 2 scorecards, 1 round on a third scorecard. So if you do think Davison has a little bit of a hope, then there you go. If you're the moron that was in the live chat insisting that it was 2 rounds across the board, do me a favor, be a human, comment and say, my bad. It's a learning experience. Math. Here's a couple more bets from the boys. Here's a combination of Jacob and BetSam. Jacob wasn't on any of the streams this week. No content from him, but there are premium bets from Jacob on the board. Not only for this event, UFC Des Moines, but he also has bets. I'm looking at him right now for UFC 315, UFC Baki, and UFC Atlanta. So check out all of Jacob's bets, all of Bet Sam's bets. Bet Sam also has a UFC Atlanta bet and UFC 315 bets on the board. Unlock all of those right now on the website, WeWantPicks.com. Bet Sam's Slam of the Week is up there. I told you that has hit 7 in a row. His Slam of the Week is the most accurate, most reliable single bet I've ever seen, honestly. Obviously, the safety parlay long-term over 3 years that's undeniable. I think that's at like an insane win percentage overall. But Bet Sam doing the Slam of the Week over the last, couple of months, at least here, wildly reliable. Then we have an Azamat Bakoyev wins by submission, plus 475. Yana Santos outright. That's not my bet. I didn't have the nerve. Jeremy Stevens wins inside the distance. Decision, no action, plus 300. That's a decent bet as well. I don't think he wins, but he is tough enough to potentially survive. Here's all the bets on the board. If you want to see the rest, there's 28 total units, WeWantPicks.com. And finally, if you go back to the first slide, you'll see the Bet Online odds and the Bet Openly odds. And every single time, whether it's an underdog or a favorite, the Bet Openly odds are better. And that's because Bet Openly is not a sportsbook. They are not a sportsbook. What they are is a platform that allows peer-to-peer betting. They facilitate bets between two different human beings. So when I put a bet up, you can grab the other side. You can bet against me. When you put a bet up, I can grab the other side. And because it's me versus you and not us versus them, there is no built-in profit. There is no 20% margin. An even money bet on a sportsbook is minus 110, minus 110. They don't care what side wins, they'll get paid. They built in the profit. They need you to lose to make money. In this world, they don't care. They just want sheer volume. They'll take 1% of the winnings. You win $100, you get 99. But you saved 10% on the odds, and there was just more profit there overall. Check them out at betopenly.com or WeWantPicks.com/betopenly. And finally, if you want $50, we'll send you $50. We do have sportsbook affiliates. And if you use any of those affiliate links to sign up, make a new account, make a deposit, they're going to pay me commission. Then we're going to slice off some of that commission and give it right back to you. Sharing the wealth. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use the links, sign up, make a deposit. We'll get you $50. Guys, good luck this weekend. Feels like a sketchy card. I do think we found some good spots. I do think we'll have as good of a week this as we did last week, but this feels a little sketchier. Hopefully, we have a great night.